two programs. One of them off the Lawrence Wells program, and then on the other side I took the Guy Lombardo from the Stereophonic Portable, and both of them have very good tone, even with an air conditioner.
Separately, or whatever the situation is on this tax question. That's what we're concerned about right now, the tax question. Well, I am too.
Everybody's concerned with that question.
There's one question that I wanted to ask, and I don't know why I haven't done it before. And that is, is there a separate tax return made for the registry and for the 5th district, or is it all one tax return?
Separate return.
It's a separate return. Now, is the registry return made as an unincorporated organization or as a division, you might say, of 5th district?
Meaning you answer that, I don't believe I can.
Well,
Just see the return, and
well,
we do not have a return.
You don't have a copy of the return. You all don't have your copy of it.
Not a return, no. We only have the audits.
Mr. Rogers made the return, and we didn't remake a note.
We've never prepared that
You never
particular
prepared
return.
return.
We did a audit over there, but he had already done return. We didn't do it again. We didn't do it. I think that it is it certainly is not incorporated in itself, and I think it's unincorporated association probably is the way it's filed. They do have a letter apparently.
Well, that was the information I wanted to start with, and I thought that's what my mother pointed out. That I don't think we can start till we know that. And a copy of it is about the only thing that...
You want a copy of the return?
If we have a copy, do you have a copy anywhere of the return of the register?
No, sir. When I kept the books, I had them then, but since I don't wait.
The register is probably in the registry office.
Sure it is.
If you'll give me a few minutes, we'll get it.
I looked at the return when they received it over there, but I can't remember much about it except that I did see it.
We should have that in 5th District headquarters, shouldn't we, Mr. Jackson?
That's where it
We are
belongs.
not getting those treasury
All
reports.
the records ought to be kept in the 5th District office and not in the registry office.
I made them up a book, and we still lack March of the previous year, 1960. The others we have since January 1st of 1960. But the last report we have not had our treasury report until last week, the past 3 months. And we do not have in the office staff when the registrars are appointed. We have letters, but we have no official time as to when they come in or what the taxes or how they are in case they came from Washington to examine those records. I finally got one little note on that showing a breakdown of the salaries and the withholding of Social Security taxes. But I have made books for everything that I could on the register. For instance, the treasury report, legal opinions from Mr. Jackson, and the minutes of the registry committee, so they will be made
Now, you
available.
do have copies of the report of the registry. Now, I think I have seen. I've seen one audit. I've seen 2 audits. I saw the 2 audits this year.
In the district now.
They should be closed together. Should be.
Midway. Now, just what do you mean? How did you arrive at this expression, nurses equity?
Well, I think we mean the same thing, really. That particular term is just simply descriptive of what it is. I think It's what the.
Well, what nurses equity?
We could have said members' equity or, but,
I get your
that
point
would
now. I
be,
see what you're trying
that
to-
would be, obvious, I guess. It wouldn't be.
You know, I have got a fuss with you auditors about one thing. I represent another institution that had a nonprofit institution, and it took me 5 years to get the auditors to use what I consider the proper legal definition. For instance, this nurse's equity is nothing on earth but the excess of income over operating expenses. That's all it is.
Accumulated, yeah.
Well, now, this is down here, what you use as nurse's equity probably is the accumulation of over a number of years.
That's right.
But from year to year.
You're probably right, but we don't know whether that's true or not. There could be a contribution in there, for example, or something.
Well, but it still sums up to the same thing. It's still an excess of income over operating expenses. No matter whether it's a donation or what it is.
Well,
Because in many institutions, they are donations. Now, this happens to be dues here.
that's dues, yeah.
Now, there might somewhere along the line, some nurse, for instance, might pass away, and in her will, she might leave something. Now, that's a possibility, and then that would, of course, be in the nature of a donation.
They
But-
have that in just a minute.
Of course, what you're doing now, when you say that, is you're defining income as anything received. And,
Well,
an
actually,
expenditure is anything paid out.
that's right.
Of course, there, we would have to differ with your definition of income.
Well,
Now.
I've gotten the
because we-
federal people to finally agree with my theory of it anyway, in this institution I'm talking about. Nurses' equity means the same thing as net worth.
Net worth, yeah.
Just a different terminology. All right, now let's see. There's a thing I pointed out that I'm afraid of. Is this what I consider too much money being put into the savings account and taken out of the regular operating expenses, and at the same time, your operating expenses or your income from dues and assessments being so much more than your operating expenses. You can declare a dividend in an organization like this.
No.
No such thing as a dividend. Now, just how far the government is gonna let you go in accumulating excess funds.
Now,
It's the
you
thing-
talking about the district or the registry?
Oh,
Well, the district won't have any accumulated because we have never had enough. We've
all
been
right,
trying to build
all right,
it.
now
And what we have will go into equipment.
all right, now if you listen till I get through, I believe you'll see what I'm driving at. As a matter of actual fact, all of this money belongs to Fifth District. Except as a division, you might say, of Fifth District. There is no such thing legally as a registry. It's a part of the Fifth District. Because it's just like any other committee of the Fifth District. The mere fact that the registry committee operates the registry doesn't take it out of the control of the Fifth District. That's where it is. Under your bylaw, that's where it is. Therefore, the income is not the income of the registry from the standpoint of who owns it. It belongs to the Fifth District. So that by your bylaws, you have attempted and have separated the income for the purposes of paying it out and taking it in. You can, for instance, for operating expenses in the Fifth District, take your excess income from the register to use for your ordinary purposes in the fifth district. You are still, by your bylaws, confined to your income from the fifth district used for fifth district and for the registered use to operate the register. So, this accumulation of income and just setting it aside, I'm afraid is what has happened all over the country, and it's probably gotten the revenue people into the position of saying that now here is a nonprofit organization that is accumulating entirely too much money. If it were a private corporation, they would be required to declare dividend, and they could accumulate what is around 20%. They really is about as much as now. You got to pay out in some fashion around 80%. Either in dividends or...
No, not in a private corporation, no.
But have you relaxed that rule? You know, it used to be.
Well, there's an accumulated surplus rule, but it rarely comes into play. It sometimes comes into play.
Very large, really, about $100,000.
$100,000 exclusion.
Well,
That they use for improvements.
Well, but it's got to be set aside for a certain purpose in theory. You can't just leave it there as a playboy thing.
Up to $100,000, I don't believe that you have to even have it set.
Is that right?
aside.
That's generally true, but anyway, your point is well made, that it would be available in a private corporation for a dividend.
That's right. And now that rule might have been relaxed since World War II, but I know we had a lot of trouble with that in World War II. A lot of it, because there was such large profits made that they tried to keep the corporations from hoarding their money. But then there was one unfair proposition about it, and that was that you couldn't buy a replacement of equipment. So therefore, you were getting into a very unfair position, and that might have been the reason the rule was relaxed. But now we come up here with where is this transfer of funds to the saving account? 9,000.
That's just how much is in it.
That's how much is in it.
I don't believe it's on that page where the transfer was made. It may be over here somewhere. No.
In Bill's estimate, you see that's,
Now, you use one expression that I like here. I think this excess of income over expenses, which you come out with just $155.78. But there is, I think you have expensed. I don't see it there.
It's not going to show up on that page.
You have an,
It's merely a transfer from one.
I know it's a transfer from one account to the other, but now where does it show up here? Where?
it doesn't show up in that
It
statement.
don't show up at all.
Because there's
In other
no
words-
expense involved, it's just taken out of one pocket, put in the other.
Yeah, I know it's taken out of one pocket and put in the other, but if the federal auditors come in to check, when they check salaries, unless salaries are $20,268, say that in that $20,268, you got $6,000 of savings that you transferred to savings, which would actually make your salary account on the $14,268. Now, is that where it is? Is it in the salary account, or where is it?
No, it's not in that statement.
Not in there at all.
Not in that statement.
Well, how did it get in the savings?
Well, that's writing a check, debiting one bank account and crediting another.
If this is your total income for dues, and from all sources, that's your total income. You got $25,654.33.
Let me explain it this way, just say, for example, they had $12,000 on hand, which isn't really right, but at the beginning of the year, they just took $5,000 off what they had at the beginning of the year and put it into a bank account, or $6,000, whatever would change. Now, this 155.78 is a result of actually the operating income and expense for the year. That transfer, whether it was made or not made, would have no effect on that figure right there, that 155.78.
Well, it wouldn't from a standpoint of an audit, but, it would from the standpoint of an audit by the federal authority.
No, it wouldn't in either case.
The equity and all would stay exactly the same, or like his assumption he made, if at the beginning of the year this was just reversed, and all we did is just change these two figures here, the equity wouldn't be affected at all.
Now, when you say Vanessa's equity, again, what you're saying is that this is the amount of money that's in the savings
No,
account.
that is the excess of income over expenses
For just
this year.
year.
Plus the balance that was on hand at the end of last year. So this equity would have no relationship at all to the savings account.
Well, now, what I'm trying to bring out is this. Somewhere you've got to account for this transfer when an auditor comes in from the federal government.
You have a motion on there, Mr. Jackson, last year, that all amounts exceeding $10,000 be transferred to the savings. in order- $8,000 in order to accumulate the interest on it. That they keep $8,000 for operating expenses.
Well, of course, under the bylaws, if, for instance, the operating expenses exceeded the current year's income, it wouldn't take any resolution or anything like that from 5th District to draw money out of the saving account and put it back into the regular account. That may be your saving grace, I don't know.
Well,
I wonder if we have here the reports for the last 3 years.
for
Yes, last 3
Yes,
years.
I have all the audits
think
on
they
the
have.
last
Got the
3 years.
audits,
The
yeah.
district and the register.
Well, if it's a mistake to have transferred it, it's my mistake, I was one day the motion.
I was thinking you had the $10,000, that seemed to be a flat figure, but be on that. They did reduce that dues this year, Mr. Jackson, did they tell you about that, in order to use some of that surplus?
No.
They reduced it
And
$5.
if necessary, we're gonna reduce them again next year.
Well, now, if
Committee.
that's true, you may come up with an excess of expenses over income, which will cut into the equity.
That's right, which was cut into
We're
the
cutting
equity.
into it this year, I know.
Well, it may, because your excess of expenditures over income may reach the point that you had to go into your savings
Now,
to
if
pay
it
it
reaches
back.
that, that's right, if it goes that far, you would have to
Well,
transfer.
that's what
money
we're
from
expecting
savings back
to do
the
this
checking
year,
account.
because that was why we reduced them. We really, some of us wanted to reduce them $10, and they settled on 5, I was for 10, but they didn't.
All right, now here, in this audit, they show cash in bank, cash in savings account. They are separated. In your audit, you did not separate them.
We got separated.
Oh, yeah, that's right, say, all right, now, from 1960 to 1961, that saving account increased $6,000. In other words, you had an excess of income over operating expenses of $6,000.
No, we decreased the checking account by 6 too.
Well, you decrease the checking account, but you didn't pull it out of thin air. You got it out of your excess operating fund. That's where it came from. It
No,
couldn't.
we already had it in the checking account, and all they did was transfer it. See, we
But how did it get in the checking account? It couldn't have gotten in the checking account, but one way it was
It was
due.
in savings and transfer, wasn't it? Remember it was?
You mean when it was
Over a
first
period of
put in
years,
savings?
It did, the checking account, and that's the way it did build up.
That's
The
right.
excess.
That's right.
I'll go along with that.
Yeah.
Well, I can
I'm
tell
not
you how it
fussing,
built up in the
I'm
first
not
place.
fussing, but what I'm trying to get at is a meeting of the mind so as to determine what we ought to legally do in order to keep, from, having to have a separate corporation, and and if we do have to have a separate corporation, that brings on more of other problems, considerably other problems, and that's what I want to avoid. Now let me just talk over our head a minute here, and I think we understand where we are. What do you think of something like this? That we so amend the bylaws of the registry that so as to provide that once each year, all of the excess income of the registry over and above the necessary operating expenses with a reserve of a certain amount which we will determine to be a fair reserve, shall be transferred to the 5th District account and taken out of the registry, so that when the book balance shows up, now we'd have to still leave it so it would be registered funds. I mean by that the 5th District ought not to be allowed to spend it
That's in the bylaws.
as a part of their income, but it would still be a reserve for
Oh, the rest.
the register, and would be subject to being paid back to the register.
That's taken care of in the bylaws already.
Yeah, all right, now, but as a matter of actual fact, it isn't done. The register never, there's no money ever transferred from the register back over to the 50th. They're two separate bank accounts.
But the bylaws state that no funds to the registry shall be spent for the district.
Well, that's as it should be, but, I'm thinking about now what we ran into during the Depression. I don't think we'll ever have another deal like that. But everybody was in hot water then. There was not enough money for anybody to operate on. Now, let's stop there and drive a peg and explore another avenue. Suppose we did that. And actually transferred the funds. Then when you made a return for the register, for the 5th District, you would have to show these trust funds. So that's what they would amount to, the trust funds. You'd have to show these trust funds. What do you think would be the attitude of income tax officers when they got into that deal? Thinking, as I am along the line, that what they're looking for is a reason for killing our exemption. That's what they're looking for. I'm satisfied with that.
Well, if the 5th District held it in trust, more or less, for the registry, wouldn't that be the same as if the registry put it in a bank account?
I don't think that from a standpoint of the federal auditors, that they would treat it any different. They would just say that it's still the registry money.
Just the same as if it's in a separate bank account.
Almost the same as if it were in a separate account.
Then now, if it's the same as if it was in another bank account, why wouldn't it be just well to leave it in the savings account where it is?
That's the reason I threw it out. I'm just wondering, in your experience with federal auditors, if you ever had that experience with it.
Let me ask you something, Lord, what you think about this now? Supposing, in line with what you just saying, that, for example, we've got $155 in the person's registry excess for the year. So suppose that the last entry we make is to transfer that to the fifth district. And there would be no excess, and the fifth district pick it up as a receivable fund.
Smitty, that wouldn't change the basic problem. The basic problem is business income.
Yeah.
Now, is operating a registry a business? Apparently they said operating a registry is a business. Therefore, if we simply transfer it to the fifth district, we've only given the profits, net profits
That's right.
over, of business income over the fifth district. So we haven't accomplished very much there again. We just,
Yeah, well, actually, I don't see how we can logically defend ourselves in saying that up to a point, the operation of the registry is a business venture. It isn't business in the sense that we say that we are in business. It's a professional association.
It is.
Now, we have fought this thing out with the State Labor Department. We finally, how long, been about 7 or 8 years ago, I finally beat them down the last time, 6 or 7 years ago. And they finally agreed that we were not running an employment agency. That was what it turned on, professional employment agency. I take the position that it is not an employment agency at all. That it is only a convenience for the hospitals, the doctors, and the public, through which the services of registered nurses may be obtained from a central source. Therefore, it is not an employment agency at all because they charge no fees in relation to the pay that a nurse gets, for instance. There are none of the real attributes of an employment agency that become a part of the operation of the fifth district of the registry. The only possible thing is that there is one fee, and that fee is paid for the purpose of operating the fifth district, not for furnishing employment. For instance, I would say that there may be some nurses that pay their dues to fifth district that rarely ever are employed. No, I mean to pay their dues to the registry that rarely ever are employed. Is that true?
That's true.
In other words, they are in effect contributions. So that I'm not worried about the state angle at all. That don't worry me a bit. But I think we've got that well settled. The only thing I'm worried about is what an auditor might come up with when he comes in and finds what he might term, and I might not agree with him. But for instance, when this savings jumps $6,000 practically in 1 year, now by the end of this year you may have it whipped down, but he's not going to give you credit for. He's not going to take 3 years and lump them. He's going to work them year by year.
Mr. Jackson, may I ask you one question on that? Is there any difference in whether the savings or whether they be invested in bonds? For instance,
It's
we
still
have our,
safe.
still same and from the taxation
I would say that any excess funds, no matter how they were arrived at or what they were converted to, would be the thing we got to overcome. I believe the auditors will agree with me on that. It is the question of what you might have it invested in. It's a question of what it is.
Are you allowed any surplus or accumulation of money for future use in case of
I think definitely they ought to allow a reasonable sum, but the question is what they would term reasonable in view of your total income. For instance, if your total income from dues looking at what? I'm looking at 60.
Let's look at 61.
Your total, well, yeah, your total income from dues in 61 was $18,613.50. 18,613.50. Maybe I can illustrate what I'm thinking about here better. Your actual expenses for the year were $25,498.55.
Well, that's not the total of dues, too, so we've got
Well,
it broken down by area
I
dues.
know you got them broken down.
Where do you get this 18?
He took the 61 dues.
I just took the 61 dues.
Oh, I see.
You see, what I was driving at was a method of
see.
illustration. That's all I'm
I
trying
see.
to do. Now, your income, of course, these were dues that were 1960 dues that were paid in 1961. And these are 1962 dues that are paid in 1961. So actually, what you come up with is a total of $19,046.50. Now, these other items, your non-professional nurses, and,
I think as far as tax rules are concerned, all of this would be in the same category.
I
This,
believe it
this,
would,
and this.
too. I believe it
Roughly
would.
$25,000.
so therefore, actually, for the year 1961, your excess of income over expenses is only $155.78, which don't amount to a hill of beans,
That's right.
with one exception. Before these figures were arrived at, before this $155.78 was determined, you had transferred roughly $6,000 into savings. Now,
Now, let me say this, where we are right now. If we had not transferred that, the 155.78 would have been the same.
how could it be?
Would have been the same. Would have made no difference whatsoever in that figure. Because we are not accounting for bank transfers there, we are accounting for income and expense.
Well, but then you haven't shown the assets.
Now, the assets are shown on the balance sheet.
Well, you started off. I see what you're talking about, but I mean from this viewpoint, would the income tax auditor agree that as of January 1, 1961, that that you didn't have a penny in the bank? You got a checking account of $664.79.
That's right. Whereas, let me show you this now, whereas at the beginning of the year, we had $6,586.70 in the checking account.
That's right.
We merely took roughly $6,000 of that and brought it down here.
This may show you what, now if you take that 65.86.70 we had to start with, you add, if you like, the 155.78.
That's right.
Add it to it, deduct the 6,000 transfer, you'll come to approximately 700, and then we've got 664 in the check.
664.
So it's merely a transfer.
It's a transfer, and frankly, I'm trying to make up my mind that it doesn't affect rightfully. Now, I'm not saying how the federal auditors are gonna treat it, but I take the position that from just a practical standpoint, that what you've done is entirely correct, and it doesn't make any difference. But are we gonna wind up with what they claim is a taxable excess of $6,000?
Well, about the only thing I can say to add to this is this. I can put it this way. if this organization is taxable, the taxable income for this year would be $155.78.
That's right.
Well, that I'm afraid I would agree with.
So,
But I still, I still haven't got the question answered that someday one or the other of us have got to answer. If we ever jump on it, I'm talking about. What happened to that $6,000?
we can show them real easy.
I know you can show them what happened to it, but, is it an excess of income over necessary operating expenses?
Over a period of years is what you're concerned with too.
Well,
It is
I would
difficult.
have to insist along with you that it is an accumulation. Because, for instance, in December 1960, you wound up with only $3,350 in savings. Now, you see what we had in '59.
And Mrs. Jackson, your picture has changed drastically as of October 1st last year, which didn't give you very much time just from October through December in making your annual report, because all the registrar salaries were increased and extra,
Well, but at the end of the year, you came up with a figure, so it don't make any difference when it happened. But now this
9
year,
months that year,
but
you
this
had
year,
very low.
yeah, but this year it'll be different.
Yes, that's what
I
I'm
think
trying to
that's
say.
her point.
Yeah.
My
that's
point
right.
of it is
This
that you're
year.
basing, your accumulation over years on something that existed
Well, now
until
you
October.
you didn't have.
Going the other way.
It's going to be
That's right.
dipping into that reserve.
You didn't
and it's
have
gonna
a-
take long to deplete it.
You didn't have a very big transfer from 58 to 59. Oh, that's 58 to 60. Where's 59? Yes, 59.
None of the salaries were comparable, I mean, they were meager.
No, you see, your accumulation, or actually, your increase in dues didn't really begin to affect your financial status until 1961.
We were actually strapped up until then, not
Right.
knowing how we
That's
were
right.
gonna operate.
Now, in
And
19
that's why we upped the dues,
Now, in 1962,
get some operators.
you're gonna eat up.
Right on. A big
Well, you may be in worse shape, because here's what you might run into. You have increased your salary,
Added another person,
and, well, that in effect is the
too.
same thing as increase your salary. Then you're gonna wind up, with a smaller income because you reduce your dues. $5 a month for how many members? I mean, $5 a year for how many members?
approximately 500,
All
private
right,
duty nurses.
all right. That's 2,500 and, $5 for the practical nurses also.
Yes, sir.
How many of
They
them?
all were reduced $5.
How many practical nurses?
I don't have a.
She had approximately 300.
Well, just
Just
speculate, that'd be 15.
Question that, man.
That'd be $4,000. All right, that would in theory wind up this year with, instead of an excess of $6,151, you would come up with an excess of about $2,100. I'm just talking now, I mean, we just project.
Mr. Jackson, on this practical nurse, bureau affair, are we claiming tax exempt from them since they have already, we have gotten the city
Well,
license
now,
for
we got,
them to operate?
well, you got a city license for them to operate, but you still don't pay any state license. We got them exempted on the state license. But I figured that we just about will stop arguing if we got as much out of them as we did, go and stop where we was. So, but I still say that the theory holds true of the non-professional, which is as well as professional as far as the status is concerned. I mean exempt status, as I took it. That's how I got by the state. And I may kill this other one in the city yet. I don't want to get into too many arguments at one time. But you're reducing your income. You may wind up this time with, say, roughly $2,000 instead of that. So that's $6,000.
And then by the next year, we'll have to up our dues since,
You might have to raise your dues $2.50 in order to get back into a surplus, or rather just enough excess over income to be on a safe basis.
Could they do this, each year when they approve the annual budget in September, the business meeting to be effective the first of the year? Could they determine, their operating expenses expected and allow $500 more and then,
Well, just put it a different way. Put it this way. I represent one trade association, and this is the way we do that. You make a budget. We'll say that budget is $25,000. All right. We've got 100 and, well, just use 100 members. That's an illustration. That'd be $2,500 on average per member. All right. We set the dues at this time when we make the budget. We set the dues for the year, anticipating that this will produce so much money plus
500 for
a
any
little
marginal
excess.
deviation?
Right. Now, over the years, 18 years, 20 years, that hasn't been, they haven't said a word about it. They ever audited us. I'm wondering sometimes why they didn't, but they never have. In the whole 20 years, they've never audited us.
will this be of any help? At the last meeting, we just decided, we discussed it last year since we made a minimum and maximum salary for each to work towards, for fixing a sliding scale. And, they were gonna raise the salaries in this next year's budget. And so I moved that the sliding scale be $10 per month, per year, until they reach the maximum salary. And that'll make a difference
Yeah, we
each
begin
year.
at a minimum salary and then wait to a maximum. Well, that's a common way of doing it.
Well, they had
It's very
never had
good.
it before.
Well, that's all right.
So that will each year climb up a little more. And that's why we're gonna have to up our dues again.
Assuming now that we do this, next year we do go down, in the next year's report that comes out, that's gonna be reflected in two different places. That your equity is gonna be reduced, and your asset will have to be reduced accordingly.
Yes, that's true.
So it's gonna cut both of these down. So if you do have that situation next year, the transfer to savings will be nothing probably, and you may be transferring some from savings back into your checking to meet current expenses.
To meet current operating expenses.
But both of these will go down the same amount and have to.
Oh, yeah, they'd have to go down the same amount.
Now, I believe you would probably be entitled to build up a net worth and a certain amount of money in your savings account to establish yourself, so you would have business respectability. You could make contracts and so on for credit
I
purposes.
don't think you'd have any sound argument against that. And the only argument that I've ever had to overcome with these federal auditors is the relationship between the amounts you accumulate and what your real operating income was. Now, that's the only problem I've ever suffered with. And I haven't had too much trouble with them, but I did it one time. But what I had was with a bankrupt outfit. I was having more trouble with them on the bankruptcy side than I was on the tax side, I think. I never did figure out what they were trying to do to me, but I finally won, so it don't make a difference.
$9,200 is what we've got in the savings account.
Well,
It-
$9,200 that's against your operating expenses of $25,000.
About 40%, a little 38%.
Yeah, that could be a little bit excessive.
Your budget this year was 28,000, proposed for this year.
Forward budget for 28,000
Yes.
for this year, and you reduced your due.
That's right.
So your income, might not be 28,000.
Right.
Now, under the,
How does it run so far?
Well, I've just gotten the last 3 financial reports, and I didn't know how much was in the savings, so I can't tell you. But I think they're gonna be dipping in the savings before the year
I
is
know
done.
that, yes.
All right, if you're dipping into your savings for the end of the year, then I think we can successfully defend any excess.
I think so too. Now, we've got about a little over $5,000, about $5,200 that you have produced in this registry over the last 3 years, 1959, 1960, and 1961.
Yeah.
Now, those are the years that are still open under the statute of limitations. Those are the years that are still subject to question.
That's right, those 3 years.
The first year, 3,600 of that 52 was earned. So that's the big year right there, 1959. After that, and after March 31st, next March 31st, the statute will run on that year, March 15th.
Yeah, March 15th.
15th again.
April 15th. No.
Well, now, I'm not sure that it won't be 5 months after December 31st. But anyway, by this time next year, it will have run. And so you'll only have roughly $1,560 open under these years that could be called taxable if we don't get questioned before that time. Now, we'll have a loss, apparently, an operating loss this year, which would tend to offset that $1,500.
We could charge back.
And which, if we were taxable, could in effect be charged back against 1959. See, we can carry it back 3 years now.
That's right.
So, the problem seems to boil down to this. In setting our future policy, we should plan to have no more income than we plan to spend. And we should adjust dues downward if necessary to avoid accumulating additional surplus in the registry.
Well, now, let's see a minute.
Now, we may at some year have a carryover.
I think maybe you got a little bit too drastic there, haven't you? It seems to me that we would be on safe ground. In our future policy, we would say that you should be based on the budget. Plus a reasonable I don't want to use a word cushion, I don't want to use a word surplus.
Well, how about saying it should be based on anticipated expenses for the year? Would give you a break even in every year is what we ought to aim to do.
But what I wanted to do there was plus, somewhere between 10 and 20%. Because I'm satisfied if you don't have an excess of over 15 or 20% above your operating expenses for any one current year, that you're going to run into trouble.
You're going to run into trouble, that's right. Of course, I was thinking that when you plan your expenditures, you build in your safety factor.
Well, now, that is something that, you might have a wrangle over. Now, I introduced that feature in two trade associations years ago on the theory that that actually we had an operating budget of $20,000. I purposely run that budget up to $25,000 or so. I padded it, I admit I did, but it didn't reflect the padding anywhere along the line, except at the end of the year. You just hadn't spent as much money as your budget called for. And then I can see that the association was well managed, because you came within your budget. The point. In other words, you're having your cake and eating it too. That's really what it amounts to.
Did you say your annual budget plus the anticipated operating expenses for one quarter?
I don't want to put that in writing.
You don't?
You see my point? I don't want the auditors to come in and call for your bylaws, or call for your, anything that would reflect where you had purposely.
I think you better be sure to raise this discussion.
Pay your budget. Now,
Well, I questioned that when we was trying to make up the proposed
But I'm
proposed budget last week.
Well, yes,
before.
yes,
And I
yes,
said
be-
we wouldn't need to put a certain amount in, and they said, well, we better have a little extra anyway.
if you don't have a cushion in a budget where you know your income is going to be limited,
If something else comes up, you can't get it if you don't have it in your budget.
you just don't get it, that's all. So, frankly, there's nothing wrong with it. I say the only thing that I can't vouch for my theory is because I've never been audited. That's the point, and I don't know what I'd wind up with. But I can show over a period of years where in some years we didn't make our operating budget, and other years we had extra. But there was always enough cushion in there to where you had a paper loss, but you didn't have any actual loss. That was the point. Now, we never got to the point in this association. I saw that they didn't have any savings account. But I'm not opposing saving account, because I think it's necessary that you have some cushion. There's no question.
I think it's an excellent idea for an organization like this to have, it'd be fine, I think, for them to have $5,000 and keep it in that savings account, as you say, in case of an unusual situation.
And I don't think that there should be any, I don't believe that when you finally worked it out, that the revenue department would insist that would be excessive.
I said 5,000.
I don't think that would be excessive.
Well, let me ask this.
much money in today's.
No, it wouldn't be.
My point in asking them to put it in the savings, transferring last year when they had a little excess in the checking account, to transfer it to the savings, was so it would earn some money.
What you didn't
And
want to
you-
do was leave the temptation to spend it. Now, just be honest.
No, I guess I'm Scotch. I was thinking of myself. If I had $5,000, I wouldn't let it lay in a checking account. I wanted to earn something from it.
That's what we did in the
And
States.
that's what I wanted it done. And then even if they tax us, and you said it would be about $150, it would already be earned enough to pay that taxes, wouldn't it?
It wouldn't.
And there's no point in letting it sit there idle, and then I'd have to pay some taxes anyway if we got an extra.
Yeah, I don't question the decision to put it in savings. It's all right.
Well, that was my argument for putting it in, but I had some opposition of not wanting to transfer it. We had kind of a wrangle about it.
Well, very frankly, I just think from the total overall planning, I don't see much use in us getting too excited about a separate corporation for the registry.
My feeling is if we went into a separate corporation, you see, we'd have to ask for a new letter.
That's right, and that's worse than the position we're in now.
Then they could follow the business right on and go back and
Pick up all this.
pick up this experience and apply it to the new
And that's
corporation. So
exactly what I don't want them to do at this point.
my idea is just to play it, just go right along like we're going. Just don't try to make any money in the register. Don't just keep your income and expense equal, and maybe spend a little bit of that savings off. Not a whole lot, maybe a little bit.
Well,
We
I'll,
appreciate that.
I'll go along with that to this point. Don't try to make an exact break even. Try to anticipate enough income to produce somewhere between 10 and 20% more. I'd say not more than, say, 15% more than your actual budgeted expense. Now, but if you're gonna load your excess budget, I mean, if you're gonna put this 10 or 15% in your budget, then it don't make any difference. But here's what you're gonna run into when you do that, with as many members as you've got. And this is what you gotta watch. When the members see that excess money, they're either gonna want to raise salaries, they're gonna wanna have them a fine office, or they're gonna wanna spend the money. They're not gonna wanna prepare for a rainy day. But if you keep that excess income over actual expenses to within somewhere between 10 and 20%, I believe it'll be safe.
Along toward the end of December, if they have more money than they need to have in there,
Have
they
a
can
party.
have a Christmas party and invite the attorney and the accountant.
That's right.
With the A&E dues going up $5, any consideration given the private engineer, I'm sure would be appreciated.
I imagine it
But
would.
why don't we try this? You reduce from $5 this year. You make your new budget in September.
It'll be approved, or the
It's to
finance
go to the
committee.
next board now.
The
I mean, the
finance
finance
committee
committee's got it now,
will
yeah.
meet on, after,
All
on
right.
the 20th.
Have you analyzed it so as to determine that your anticipated dues from both non-professional and professional will meet your budget?
I don't think it's gonna meet it. Not since it's dipped in,
Not-
so
not-
this year I
not-
think
not
we
with
still
a-
don't have.
Not with a $5 reduction in your dues. Well,
Because we're
if
reducing it
you
already.
operated, say within $2,000, that would reduce, just call it for the purpose of talking amongst us, surplus from $9,000 to $7,000. That same trend could continue. And in 1965, 64, it can reduce it down to $5,000. Then you'd have to start building up again.
I think
Yeah.
we'll have to start building up before then.
But
I wouldn't want you to go too far in
See,
this
we
direction.
got to-
You go too far mighty quick.
In making up our budget, we've got to base it on last year's membership. We don't
That's
know,
right.
some years it drops and some
That's
years
right.
it
You
picks
got-
up a little, but
you
more
got that.
likely it drops a little.
You got to anticipate your income on the previous year and your expenditures on the next year. That's the way a budget's built.
I'd rather be in a little bit uneasy tax position than in an unsound financial position
That's right.
I
anytime.
think I
Because
have.
you-
I would prefer
I believe we can defend what we've got so far, on the theory that you have anticipated possibly that your income was a little excessive, and you have remitted that back to your membership by reducing the dues, which in effect could be classed as a dividend. It isn't actually a dividend, but it amounts to the same thing. So you're not trying, well, let's put it this way. You could demonstrate the fact that you're not planning to build up an inordinate surplus.
No, we didn't plan it to begin with.
You've
We were
already
just,
made an honest, it is a manifestation there, but you've already, in giving them that $5 reduction, shown your good faith there in keeping with it.
That's right. You're trying to
That is your
operate
first,
as a non-profit organization.
Evidence.
see, a few years back, we were so broke that Miss Mason was our advisor, and she said, and we made a drastic increase in dues in order to bring it up, so we could probably in the future raise salaries and not come out in the red the next year.
That's what I thought.
Go under, right?
It's kind of bad when you see your budget, your money in the bank going down and your,
And I still think it's gonna go down a lot more than they're thinking.
I think you're
This
right.
year, I think it's gonna dip a lot deeper than most people
Smitty, I think
think.
maybe it might be a good thing for you to take a look at the latest report of the register and see if you can determine approximately, don't try to get it down just real close, see how much income, how much deficit they're carrying for this year to date.
Have they issued a report?
I have the last 3, but I do not know all.
That monthly report?
Monthly reports, they just
January,
been
February,
returned.
March.
The last 3 have been, sent to the office. I think it only carries them through April, I don't know their waiver, they haven't given us monthly reports at all. We have,
they have paid,
the treasurer has not, well, this is done by the new bookkeeper, and the treasurer has not read one in any of the meetings.
That don't look
She know
good.
that she should
They
get.
looks all
know
right.
it, they know it.
That looks all right. I
And they
don't-
say they have to take it to the registry committee before they submit it to us, so one of the report came in the office last week.
What
Well,
was
why
dated
shouldn't they? We meet
9/17/03.
once a month.
No, that's the date of the.
They
yes,
don't,
the date of the
they're
next
not
one.
to be running behind 3 months. I don't.
I'd go right on that letter, I wouldn't
I
disturb that
wouldn't,
letter.
I wouldn't, no, sir, I wouldn't put that letter in jeopardy.
No.
I don't see why not either.
I think we're all right, just to be perfectly frank with you, I'm not too much excited about it. Now, you said something about changing your bylaws. Had you drafted some changes that you wanted to put in effect?
yes, the bylaws, but I don't leave anything in.
Instead of, oh, you mean that general overhauling of the bylaws? You haven't done anything?
In line with the state and the national, but I don't believe there's any change in there affecting the registry.
I don't think we've got anything to really worry about.
What specifically are we gonna do?
Is
Are we gonna make any recommendation, are we gonna make any,
My recommendation would be that we operate just like we're operating, with this one exception. I would like to see a copy of your proposed budget for next year. And if there's anything in there that arouses my suspicion, I'll get with you boys and we'll check it out.
I think it might be
Well,
good.
just do this.
Well, that would be a
Just-
good idea
just
before
put it a
it's
different way.
passed on. Let them see what they think about it.
Send both of us a copy of the proposed budget. Then if we run into anything that either one of us is suspicious of, we'll confer with the other.
Can you make it emphatic to that group that those reports, the treasury reports from the registry, that it's vital and important that they be sent to the district headquarters regularly?
Of course, I think there ought to be, that in effect, what that really is, these reports are in effect just a monthly cash balance report. That's about what it amounts to, almost a petty cash report for what it amounts to.
That's in the bylaws, sir. That
And
is
they
a
ought,
requirement.
they ought to do it.
That is a requirement of our bylaws.
Well, I was hoping with this new regime it'd work out better, but I think if you all can insist on it, that let me know and I'll write a letter.
And I understand you said you thought the state was all right with that. We won't be questioned.
Well,
The state,
now, you don't get anything out of the registry. You don't get anything.
I was wondering if the Internal Revenue was looking into the registry, so they're gonna start looking into the states
Well,
also.
how much equity do you have in the state?
We have, three $10,000 savings, and, I think a little over 1,000 in the fourth savings.
All right, now, what is your annual budget?
But annual budget, something like that.
30,000.
This concludes the recording of the meeting held at the Georgia State Nurses Association on August 9th, 10 o'clock. Mr. James Jackson, the auditors, Mr. Hurst, and Mr. Smith were present, with the chairman of the Registry Committee of the State Association and the two executive secretaries, Ms. Dixon and Ms. Adkins. I have just completed making a recording from the original recording on the Norell Cove that belongs to the 5th District headquarters. I am now making a test between the two. Evidently, the quality of the portable is better. This will be determined perhaps after we have tried using different angles and at different distances. I regret to say they are at different speeds.
Do you have on your committee?
You don't want to record it?
Not right this minute.
All right.
On the ballot, that's your hard luck if you don't know.
We can't put a color.
No, ma'am. I mean, though you cannot specify.
Still?
Presented on the ballot are First Vice President Doris Hanson, Eula Benning. They have consented. Do we have any suggestions, or should there be any other person put on there?
I don't believe, have the authority to put anybody else on the ballot. They can nominate from the floor, but we do not have that authority.
All right. Then that would take care of First Vice President. For Secretary, we have only one individual, and we have some suggestions.
You only have one because the other is not consent to serve.
We have the one already listed and that has agreed is Essie Mae Horn. Are we privileged to add another one, or?
Well, I thought the committee was supposed to present two.
That's what the bylaws.
Well,
I mean,
on each
I don't
office.
believe this would be out of order. I was on the state
Well,
nominating committee. We only had one, just one, and we could not. Ms. Watts was on that committee, and we just had to put that one, and that's a written ballot, you know, state. Now, Esme Horn is in what?
She's public health.
Yes, she is.
For directors, we have Emily Zerp, Sister Encanada, Pauline English, Jean Copeland, Encanada, Pauline English, Jean Copeland, and Edith Honeycutt. And Jean Copeland and Edith Honeycutt. I assume those have all consented.
This is the directors.
Yes,
How many are we supposed to have?
3. Elect 3. There's 5 on the ballot, and you could select 3. And the chairman on committee on nominations, the only one we have is Doris Taylor. She's public health.
The part
Well-
that makes it embarrassing for your committee in a way, because they are the ones that responded. And you do have the response from your president, but mental mention, most of them were unable to.
Well, now, chairman on the committee of nominations, we all pretty huge.
Yes.
Well, if we cannot add any to this ballot today, or suggested ballot, this will now be presented, the ballot that we prepare today will be presented to the Board of Directors in September, is that right?
September 11th, an annual meeting is September 13th.
Then why did we meet today if we cannot add anyone else?
Well, we have to prepare this ballot to present to the, board. And then they, at the next meeting, of the fifth district, they'll put on the board and they'll vote on it. Is that not correct? That's the way it did with,
What does that say again about what the nominating committee does?
It does not
It
state-
doesn't
It
say.
says you prepare a list with 2 nominees for each office.
The Committee on Nominations shall prepare a list of 2 or more candidates for each office to be filled who have consented to serve if elected, and place the same in nomination at the annual meeting. And the same thing in this new suggested bylaws, it says the same thing.
Well, in other places in there, it does mention the fact that they, in selecting people, that they try to represent all fields and occupational groups. And it would seem to me, since there's nothing in writing in your bylaws there, or anything to specify whether or not you may add to that list, that in fairness to all other occupational groups, there's an inconsistency there someplace, because,
But each group was compounded, and if they didn't send somebody, then it's too bad that this is top-heavy with public health. It's not too bad, it's real good.
Yeah, well, that was the reason I wondered about the alumnus, because I know we don't meet, but if we have something that comes up, we're supposed to have, I'm on the board, we're supposed to have called meetings.
they were notified, because I did it with the addressing graph, and used the members of the board there, the chairman and the president.
well, you got nothing from private duty,
For Emily, didn't she probably do?
Yeah, but, there were
He
more,
did
in that
Sunnycut,
meeting, well, he did Sunnycut, but
She
not
doesn't
the
wanna-
meeting,
Everything that was presented to me is in that.
Is right here.
It was right there.
at our meeting, there were more than, Emily that consented to this office.
This is what she has written here. Those declining to accept nomination: Beatrice Montgomery, Latrell Turner, Ann Tiller, Hazel Gill, Frances Salt, Marjorie Jones. Replies have not been received from Ruth Smith, Sally Crawford, Margaret Lasky, Carol Lou McCarter, Alice Morgan, Lucy Mace. Miss Mace gave a verbal report, which was no.
I declined very good.
Georgia Baptist alumni submitted too late for July report. 2. It is not known if their consent had been obtained for first vice president Miss Ellen Jones and for chairman committee on nomination Miss Sally Clark.
And if you'd like to add those 2 on there, we still don't know whether their consent has been obtained.
Could we add their names and then send them
Since
a
it's-
slip to get their consent? Since Georgia Baptist sent it in,
Well, it looks like to me that the alumni, would not have sent their name in.
Without
Because,
consent.
because those 2 girls, Sally Clark and, Turner, both work right in the hospital.
Then we
Ellen
might assume
Jones.
that they have given their consent when they submitted.
Ellen
to
Jones
us.
it is, and Sally Clark.
both of, Ellen Jones and Sally right in the
And-
hospital, and they should have, they would have been easily contacted.
And when I asked about it, they told me they had the verbal consent of Ms. Zers.
Yes.
Yes.
So I would assume that they did have the
Emily
consent.
gave us
And
consent.
she gave it at the
In
meeting.
the meeting.
Then can we add those names to the ballot? I'm asking for information.
Turner and, Clark, what else?
Turner declined to serve.
Those declined, you see. Those are
Who are
the
the two from Georgia Baptist,
Ellen Jones and Sally Clark. Ellen Jones for first vice president.
And she declined?
No,
No.
we don't know, you see. It is not known if their consent had been obtained.
But that means we're submitted.
But Georgia Baptist alumni submitted them.
Would it be possible to call the, nursing service and ask them?
Sure.
I think it would be well if we may go ahead and include them and then that be called before the
Ballot is made up.
ballot is made up.
Well, I can call that this afternoon.
You know?
How late were they sending it in?
Well, it was after we waited for them, but there was no time to send out and get a reply. This was on Monday, and I had to have a reply in by Wednesday. And,
10
our
minutes up.
reports were already late, so I did not have an opportunity to mail them or question it.
But
If
we
we
need,
do this, then may I make a motion that these two people be contacted and get their consent? And if they do consent, to put them, to add them to the proposed ballot in their respective offices. Is that legal? And get it off our minds.
Well, now, frankly, I don't know. As I say, I've served on this committee 3 times, but this has not come up before.
They have been suggested, and I would think that your motion would be in order
Oh,
if it's seconded.
I'll second.
If it's seconded.
you've heard the motion. In a second, what's your pleasure? All in favor? We have sufficient number for a directors.
Jones, first vice president.
Yes.
Question.
And then Sally Clark, chairman of committee on nominations. We only have one individual listed for secretary. And as you know, we need a very strong, interested individual. We have SMA Horn. SMA will do a good job if elected, but we need more than one person on the ballot.
I don't think, excuse me, I
Go
think
ahead.
that's pertinent.
Well, the problem, I think in these committees, they are confidential, that we should express this, as they said in the statement. We have to discuss these with the going con, because we're making up the ballot for people in the office to do a good job for the state, district, or
Mhm.
whatever.
Well,
place
this is
they're
the
going to
district.
serve. And the committee on nominations should know the pros and cons.
Our problem before in the secretary has been that Ms. Dixon has been most useful, but it's been an added burden to her because she has to do it at 12 or 1 o'clock at night. And they have to attend the meeting on Tuesday, and that report should be in the district office the next day. Because we have to have it typed no later than early Thursday morning in order to have it ready for the board meeting that night. So it's a job that someone is going to have to be responsible. And good minutes, I think, are essential. in all
They
your
are
operations.
essential. Then may we get someone else's name or get the consent of someone else and add them to this ballot? Proposed, when I say ballot, I am meaning a proposed ballot. I will call Georgia Baptist this afternoon and find out if they have the consent of these two. We need 2 people at least 2 people. So what is your pleasure?
Since the question is, we're so late in going out, and we had no written directives on that, our directives from the state were late, quite late, then I think that would exclude or excuse any, part that we would be justified in making every effort to have a ballot
Full ballot.
that is comprehensive and including all sections. Crawford Law perhaps didn't have a meeting after that time.
That's right.
And under those circumstances.
Well, I think this,
I feel
this
that
does
this committee
needs
has a
clarifying.
I think this committee
It
has a
needs to be
responsibility.
written out what
Something needs
the
to be written
nominating
out.
committee is
This
supposed to
the
do.
reason that so many people feel that our organization is so one-sided. Some people are informed, now, I'm not saying that our lovely president wasn't informed, but I know we have not had a meeting about this. And she is new, and I think if she knew a little bit more about it, well, she knows.
Would you like to make a suggestion that in view of the fact that the other notices were late, and send another notice to the alumni?
Would that be in order, or do you think it's too late to do that?
I believe we leave the complications by sending them all out now. I think that it would be a nice thing if this committee would be empowered to go ahead and make contacts with them, personal contacts.
Well, I move that this committee have the authority to make contact with qualified people to serve in office.
To contact, it's on there though, isn't it? Oh, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Which I don't think that our secretary here needs to, seems like she's having to redo the whole organization.
That's
She's got a
true.
big job and nobody really appreciates
Well,
what
that's
she
the
is
trouble,
doing.
is we, Ms. Atkins has had nothing to go on.
Well,
and
it seems
we
as though we've been in a
know,
rut.
Really qualified bylaws that we can stand.
Well,
You're making any assumption.
I've nearly driven
We're
Carolyn to
going on.
death, calling her and asking her questions about what to do about this. Because this doesn't tell you anything.
And we have no other information there that will tell you either. They've done what they, for 17 years, perhaps they've done the best they could about it, but I think our whole structure should be reviewed and brought up to date on all groups, their obligations, responsibilities, and who is responsible. And it
Well,
Do
I'll
you
tell you
want-
one thing that I've thought about, when I was on the board, we would know maybe till the day before, well, I would, maybe I was just misinformed, that we were supposed to, submit names maybe till we got there, that we were to submit names, and until this, Atkins went in, you really never knew that what you were gonna do at the board meeting, a lot of times. And she usually, tell us about an agenda, I have called her, but a lot of times I went to the board meeting, really not knowing that we were supposed to have some names to submit.
Well, that's
So
the
it's
position
just-
I've been in, you see,
Yes.
as chairman. I didn't know. I went to Ms. Garland and asked her, what am I supposed to do? And she told me. And then quite by accident, I found out differently, that we were supposed to present this to the board in May. And then it was the 27th day of April. How could I contact all the section chairmans and the alumni and get a report back by the 8th of May? Couldn't be done. That's why I say it should be in writing. Will it be in rules and regulations?
No, but we're going to have some personnel policies in the office there, and if they don't bring it in writing with the bylaws, then I'm going to get all the information I can and run off some India copies. And then when a person goes into office, you will have it as a guideline, it's something to go on.
Well, I thought that when we came to this committee, we probably nominated people, really.
Well, that's
And
Miss-
I've talked with several people today, but I didn't know what offices.
we need to, do you have a consent of someone that would serve as secretary? Because we need another person.
I know some girls who probably would take office, but I don't think that being new, they would take secretary. See, I didn't know that what officers we really, I didn't have no bylaws at work.
Let me make one suggestion. We heard from Emory, we heard from Georgia Baptist, we heard from the private and public health. Wouldn't it be in order that, the committee be empowered to go ahead and contact the presidents of the remaining alumni groups to see if they had any nominations?
Well, I don't know, would it?
I think they would probably have already sent them in if they, by this time. Because it doesn't seem really fair, because Georgia Baptist came in late, and ours was just a bit coming late. Seems to me that people would St. Joe.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. We had, well, the president, St. Joseph just paid the news. I just found that out yesterday. Well, she's been notified after April the 1st that her name was off the list, but she's been on vacation, and we have been trying to get that in. She has not. And we
They're
still,
on vacation for labor.
we have the treasurer of one of the alumni, hadn't paid her dues either. So I have had problems, very great problems, and yet her
How do
alumni.
they serve? The alumni know. There's no
President notified that.
They have to be a member in good standing.
charge.
You have problems when you don't get your reports on that. Well, I would still suggest that that it'd be nice to go ahead and call Crawford Law, St. Joseph, and Piedmont, and tell them that the committee is completing their ballot, and if they do not receive the information in time, or they have any suggestions that you would like to know.
And if we are in there, something should be put in writing that will give us,
You'll know about it next year if I'm in office, because you're going to hear about it in January.
The duties of all officers and committees
Should be,
spelled out.
it should be spelled out, but they're not.
Well, your bylaws have not been printed in 10 years, so we're hoping.
Who, do you know who the presidents?
Dorothy Nix, St. Joseph.
Dorothy Nix, St. Joseph.
Estelle Hilton, Crawford Law.
Nix, Estelle Hilton.
Now, you do have some Grady, alumni members who are already nominated, since Ms. Hanson is a Grady graduate, and you
Yes.
had some of the others.
Benning is a Grady
And that's
graduate.
Grady. So I would say that, at least you have a representative from that group, and you would
Yeah.
not want to add to that number, but certainly, Crawford Law and St. Joseph, Piedmont.
Crawford Law, St. Joseph, Piedmont.
Estelle Hilton.
Who is president of, you're from
Mamie
Crawford Law.
Bond. Mamie Bond is Piedmont. Miss Mamie Bond, she's private duty.
who, St. John Hicks?
No, Dorothy Nix,
Nix.
NIX. She's on the staff. And Hilton's on the staff, and Mamie Bond is private duty.
Well, who is the president of Piedmont?
Mamie Bond,
Mamie Bond. Well, who is Estelle Hilton?
Crawford Law,
Oh,
president.
had in the wrong pew.
And then St. Joseph is Dorothy Nix.
Uh-huh.
Miss Hilton, hers is, Butler Road, East Point.
Ben Hill. No,
I think you have that on this,
Okay.
maybe, if it hasn't been corrected, it may be the old form.
yes, I have it. No, Dorothy Nix, Mamie Bond.
Well, would it be out of order to have two people on this thing for the nominating committee? Oh, we got two.
No, we, yes,
I think you ought to have two.
you
since
should
that's
have,
how
you
they
should
are.
have
Yeah.
two.
I said, well, I don't think I'll get elected, I let you go, but I just really and truly, we've got so much to do. I just-
This says Crawford Lawn is Maurice Holland, Laureen Holland.
Well, she's been, Laureen is now in occupational health, so else that should be corrected.
Estelle.
She was Hilton. Estelle Hilton.
That would not be her address either. Do you know by any chance her telephone number?
It's in your little directory, 1959 or 1964 directory. It's in
I get it
Thank
then
you.
later.
I believe you'll find
Now,
them right.
do you want me to go ahead and call
Yeah,
them,
right
or?
there. I think it would be nice if you will, because, as chairman of the committee, you know their responses. Go ahead and
When do you have to have this information?
We have to have it to present to the board of directors
September
in
9th.
September.
No later than the 11th, that is the date of the board.
So you see, we have to do it.
And then I'll have to have a little time in which to run them off, so I'd
See.
like to have them at least by the 7th.
Do we have a recommendation go from this group today to to the board to get this thing clarified? So that when the nominating committee meets next year, I mean, whoever is the nominating committee, they'll know.
What are their privileges and what are they supposed to do? That was one of the suggestions I made a while ago, is actually what are our
And what they
responsibilities?
need is actual, months that they would contact, like you said, in April.
Well, I think we should start out at the beginning of the year, in January, and tell them at their next meeting in March to present it to their group and to have it ready at least before your May meeting is when you need it. So
You
that
have to
doesn't
have
give
it
you
in the
very
May.
much time. Even April is a little bit late then. They state April, but I think you ought to start off in January and tell them at least by their meeting in March to present it to the group.
I think this should be for all committees, not just the nominating.
I think so
And
too.
also, I've just got through going through this with the students. We've been redoing the handbook, and we've been going through this one step by step, what committees are supposed to do. But it certainly would save you a lot of footwork.
It would save quite a bit of confusion, and then we know exactly how we stand. I think everything should have it clarified and a written policy. Not by word of mouth, or how we do something.
Well, that's the trouble. Too much has been by word of mouth. And then when we have the things by word of mouth, we have no,
It's too
nothing to
flexible.
stand on.
Too flexible.
There's no, correct procedure to guide you.
For instance, when you have recommendations, in regards to the private duty section, having it clearly written out, whether or not that should come to the board, whether it comes to the board as a recommendation, or what authority you have to go ahead for action and the proper procedure. I definitely feel that we should have some personnel policies, or at least some policies for the, management and the business procedure.
I agree with you.
Sections and committees.
As it stands now, I will call Mrs. Hilton, Mrs. Bond, and Miss Nix and ask them for suggestions for secretary, first vice president, secretary, and directors. Is that right? And should we have another committee meeting and then present the final findings to the total committee, or shall I just call them to you? What is your,
Well, I think that's entirely up to the chairman, what you feel would be your best
as I
judgment on that.
as I say, this is a new experience. I'm learning, and I'm hitting my head, but then,
If you'd like to, after you've gotten that, like to send a letter out, or letter would be better to your members and tell them that they have been suggested, and you would like to have their comment or their approval.
all
Then
right.
in a way, you would have it clear with all the members.
You mean to send a letter to the committee
Your
on
nomination.
this committee?
To give them the results of your calling, your findings.
All right.
Then I think that would give you a little more official standing there, and
Okay.
get their response and their thinking on it.
And then you will get that letter out.
Yes, Mr. Maybe Greg, you can write one letter and you can have them all out by the time you've written one almost. Simplifies it.
What else are we supposed to do? I'm asking, because I don't know. I've never been active in this district. I've always paid my dues, but I've never taken an active part.
It's a good experience. You
Yeah,
do it.
well,
The rest of us, we
uh,
learn the hard way, but I think out of all of that, you find
Well, now,
something
who were
that's-
your members on the committee of nominations that,
Here.
Read those out, Ms. Morgan, so we'll have them recorded in this meeting.
I know, honey, but for you, next year in making up your ballot, you see, we got to have some members besides your chairman. Or does
No,
the chairman,
the
chairman
is the
has...
only one that is elected.
Chairman, the
Elected.
rest are selected by the board at their first call meeting following the election of officers.
Oh,
We
is
have a
that-
call
that
meeting
is?
and all standing committees are filled at that time, which will be the latter part of September or October.
Oh, I read this thing from cover to cover.
I keep it on the telephone, read. No, all committees.
And it
except
doesn't
the
say
chairman.
anything else, you see. And this is the other comment that it has right here. Carolyn was kind enough to mark it for me. But trying to find my responsibilities, I've read it over and over and over, and that's all I have found.
Then that's all I have to go on to.
Very, very bad.
That should be brought up to date.
Well, that you see, I had mailed Miss, show her the copy of the bylaws that we did that day. We've just referred to them. I think they're right there.
Yeah,
That is,
this is the copy.
I move the recommendation. This committee recommends to the Board of Directors that the duties and responsibilities...
No, hand back. It's supposed to be common. Duties, responsibilities, and procedures
of all standing committees be clarified and detailed instructions given to each committee appointed.
What is your pleasure? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
I move this, recommendation to the board that biographical sketches for all nominees for officers of the 5th District GSNA be submitted to the nominating committee and published in the meter prior to the annual election.
You have heard the motion made by Mrs. Reeves and seconded by Mrs. Morgan. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
this concludes the recording of the meeting of the Committee on Nominations, 5th District, United States Nurses Association, held at 2 p.m. in the Public Health Department building. Mrs. Mabel Sherlin, Chairman, present. Mrs. Alice Morgan, Mrs. Elsa Reeves, Mrs. Margaret Armstrong, members of the committee present, and the Executive Secretary, Ms. Atkins, in attendance. August the 9th, 1962.
I don't know what time it is.
20 minutes on.
20 minutes of 8. We'll open our meeting by starting at the beginning and going down on this proposed budget for 1963. As stated, we're at $6.50 per month.
Which one is that, district or the registry?
63.50.
I mean,
What's that?
is that the district or the
No,
registry?
this is the district.
Fine.
I only have one copy of the other.
All right.
Amounts to $762. Telephone, $29.63 monthly, 12 months. And for our extra ad, $397.92. Printing a district meter, $124.38, and 6 issues per year makes $850. Schedule cards for meeting dates, $60. Bulk mailing fee, $20. Audit, $100.
per year. Postage for meter and office, $500. Parliamentarian, $10 per meeting, $20. Salary, $5,100. Office supplies, $400. Employer's tax, $150. Full insurance coverage and bond for treasurer and executive secretary, $140. Answering Atlanta telephones, $246. City and county tax, $30. Rent on safe deposit box, $5.50. Flower allotment, $50. Section expense, $10 per person, $120. Convention expenses, president and executive secretary of the GSNA, $150. Printing for office printing and the direct is $600. Directory, $300. Office equipment, $600.
That 600 will be for the bylaws that they plan to print. That's the estimated cost.
And the estimated income is $10,000. Estimated income is according to our members, $1,200 at $10 each. That'd be $12,000. Now our expenses that we've allotted here is $10,701.42. Well, if bylaws are changed, additional office assistance will be necessary for 5 months. This amount will be deducted from the balance and office equipment if necessary, $1,298.58. And our total would be $10,000 or $12,000 for 1963. Now, are there any? Now that is just a minimum on everything.
The lawyer told us, Ms. Mace, to be sure to include on there anything first on those consultations they had about a 2-hour session, that we must allow for everything that might come up. We're hoping we won't need that additional help there. If y'all give me the machinery I need, I think I can do without it. But on the other hand, he said, be sure to include it in your budget for us to spend a little bit that we have, not try to make any money at all. That the main thing is that you must not have profit showing. So be sure to include enough. He said, don't pad your budget, but put enough in there to cover everything that might come up unexpectedly.
Well, they should allow, in an organization like this, enough in a bounce to cover at least 1.5 year to 2 years expenses if there was a depression or something that you had to cut back on the members, but you still had to keep up the office. That's good business. But right now, the tax government is checking everything so thoroughly and cutting out so many things that's been allowed that I guess no doubt is just best not to have anything. And I don't imagine with the way we have of trying to get the dues out of people that you would have anything over.
Is this Social Security on this tax?
That's the part the office pays on that. See, the maximum is $150 for them and $150 for me. They take out $150 of mine, and the
That's
office
Social
maximum.
Security, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's right, Social Security.
You said on salary, so that's why.
Well, it is. It's on the salary, maximum $4,800 for the year for anybody. And that's what it is. The office pays that much, whereas
And you pay it.
and I pay that
Yeah.
much.
I just wondered if it was Social Security.
Mhm. We had to take that insurance there. Heretofore, it had only been $20 for bondage, but it was $136 that we had to pay the Spratt and Harrington for liability insurance, full coverage for the office and the executive board. We had to do. So that's why that had to be changed.
Now there's a new piece of equipment that Miss Adkins feels it is necessary, it'll help cut expenses one way and will make the work easier in another way by having the equipment. And I'll ask Miss Adkins to explain it to you people so that you know what she's
Just
talking
briefly,
about.
it's a photocopier. We're gonna have to do all of our applications, you see, right, if the bylaws are changed, instead of them going through the alumni, we'll have 800 more. Of course, many of the members are already here, but it changes every year. We're also having to do with state board, getting state registration validated, and what we're gonna have to do in sending out references, instead of me taking time to fill out 600 and 800 references and putting in all the hospitals and where they're from on this one piece of paper. See, this is a copy, Anita. This is a copy. And
from one thing and put it into another, that it should be left up to the headquarters committee or the executive secretary with the authority given to her by the president to go ahead and get the necessary things. I don't think that you should have to go around and ask everybody in the district when things are necessary. And if we have it someplace that we could take it out of one thing and put it into another, what difference does it make? It's the district's money, and we're using it to a good advantage. So I feel that it's just good business.
Miss Mace, they've made that for the last several years that ours be interchangeable. But it doesn't state there whether that's just for this time or whether it's for all future times. And also, they tell us that we can do those things, but it isn't down in writing. So that's why I'm glad you're clarifying that.
Well, I hope we have here two recommendations to make: the approval of the purchase of the AB Dick photocopier. That is the machine we just discussed. And then the second will be that the items be interchangeable in the budget, and that the office equipment, operational services, and supplies be obtained as needed, provided the amount does not exceed the total amount. Are you young ladies ready to accept this as it stands? This budget for the district.
Looks like you've done all the work.
We're helping Miss Atkins, but I feel that it's better to have the figures, because figures all it is after it's all said and done. So,
Who's making the motion?
I can't make
No,
it,
you
or
can't.
I'll be glad to. I move that we accept, present the budget
as planned.
as
is that-
planned.
All right. And you second. And since there's just three of us, that carries. Turn it off.
Thank you.
Nurses Professional Register, 5th District, GS&A, budget for 1962 to 63. This was presented to me by Miss Hicks.
Let me make one little change on that. Last year, Mrs. Alt, being chairman of the Finance Committee, thought that it took effect immediately after the business meeting, October. We've had that clarified with the lawyer, and it is actually, the budget is, the fiscal year is the calendar year. So we'll delete the 62 on there and put the 63
All right,
and
then
get
we'll
it
put
back.
1963.
63 on it.
And we'll take
That
it out.
was due to the fact that, as chairman of the Finance Committee, that was her understanding on it, and she had some things become effective October the 1st. That's one of the things I hope we clarify.
Rent is $1,500. Telephone and telegraph, $600. Postage, $100. Petted cash, $50. Office supplies, $350. Office equipment, $200. Professional periodicals, $20. And the American Journal Nursing, $3. And the ad in the bulletin, $12.50. that is taken care of. Insurance, bonding, and position schedule 20. Insurance and liability, malpractice, 151. Taxes, Fulton County, 1076. Taxes, City of Atlanta, 1463. City license, non-professional, $48.50. Publicity and promotion, 100. Convention expenses, 100. Education expenses, 500. Auditor, 150. Miscellaneous, 200. Employers' contributions, Social Security, 600. Georgia Department of Labor, 200. Federal Government Adjustment, 100. Now, the recommendations from the register that all regular personnel be given a $10 raise each year until their maximum salary is reached, provided the funds permit. I deleted that per month, which would have meant 12, would have been 120 per month. So just for taking out those two words, took care of those. Then the salaries, Mrs. Vaughn is 370, total 4,440. The register 311, Mrs. Kellum, 335, total $4,020. And registrar Mrs. Hurd, 335, total $4,020. Registrar relief days, Mrs. Alden, 320, total $3,840. Relief for holidays, sick leave, meetings, and vacations, Mrs. Vandenberger, $18 per day. It would amount to $2,500. Bookkeeper, Mrs. Martha Carlton, $1,380. 2 days per week, $20 per day, first 4 months of year, 1 day per week, last 8 months of the year. That gives what the 1,000, the time that Mrs. Carlton spends in the office. And the total for the year of 1963 is $25,214.89. And with their one recommendation. Are there any questions you would like to ask? Or do you want to move that this budget be accepted as Mrs. Hicks gave it to us to approve?
Miss Mace, are you sure this $10 isn't a month that they want?
No.
They have a sliding scale, and that's what she means by that, Ms. Garland.
$10.
Well, I was at this meeting.
You were? Oh, I'm sorry.
$10, no. We went over that. I went over this carefully with her. And what they wanted and misrepresented in their wording was $10 per year, which would be in 3 years or 5, I think it's a period of 5 years, would put them at the maximum salary. Not $10 per month, see. It's $10 per year, because you see they have the each year, see, until the maximum salary is reached.
You mean that she'll get $10 a month
That's right.
for this year, and next year an increase of another $10 every month.
That is, you get the $10, yes, but it's not like this month. The salary would just take this 335. Well, if you got it each month, at the end of the year, you would be making 455. See, but that isn't their idea. Their idea is that it would be 345 for the year of 63, and 355 for the year 64, and like that unto the maximum
So
salary.
they don't really get $10 per month.
No, it's per year.
Per year.
Per year. They get it after the year comes. Now, this practical nurse came, turned on. Now we're ready to vote on the professional register's budget for 1963.
I move that we present the budget as planned for the registry.
And you second it.
63.
Thank you. It's been moved, approved and second that the budget be accepted as presented to us by Mrs. Hicks.
Does this recommendation have to be acted on separately?
Uh,
Or will that cover it?
Well, we'll ask her if she wants to put it in and
No,
meet.
the salary.
Or the salary.
revenue.
I think if we leave it that way, they get 120.
I just wondered if we needed a second motion to
Oh,
accept the recommendation in addition to the budget.
I don't think so. I think that's the budget you're presenting.
The entire thing, as a whole. This concludes the recording of the meeting of the Finance Committee held at Ponce Leon Infirmary with Miss Mace, the chairman, present, Ms. McGorum, Miss Atwater, members of the committee, Mrs. Gladys Garland, president, and the executive secretary, on August the 22nd, 1962.